Guys, what's good? Welcome in here, Kurt Magoo Sports. We have some breaking news here on a Friday. We are in the month of February, and the breaking news is that Bryan Harsin, the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, is going to be retained for at least another season. So, Bryan Harsin, his buyout was $18 million for Auburn to fire him without cause. Now that they're going to be paying Bryan Harsin again, I believe that then if they fire him next year, which is surely going to happen, Bryan Harsin then will be charged maybe $13 million, something like that. So the point is why Bryan Harsin was retained at Auburn is because if they tried to fire him for cause and avoid the 18 or the $13 million, the reason why Auburn decided to keep him was that Bryan Harsin would have brought this thing to court. So this whole story, the allegations about some activity going on in his headquarters there at the University of Auburn, those might be false, and those might be the boosters making something up, because Bryan Harsin here in this instance, he is now going to be he is not going to be fired. So, you look at this for Auburn and for athletic director Alan Green, and Alan Green went against the Board of Trustees in pretty much getting Bryan Harsin on board at the University of Auburn. And I expect there next year to be a new athletic director, and I expect there to be a new head coach next season at the University of Auburn. This allows Auburn, this allows the boosters and everybody, this allows them time. Not only are they not going to have to go to court, because if they go to court, then there will be more scandalous activity that you will see between the boosters. Everything will be out in the open. The NCAA will sanction you, will put down bowl bans. So you don't want to go to court. So Auburn here made the right decision. They can fire Harsin after this year because Harsin has no friends at Auburn. It's a horrible situation. He doesn't get along with Auburn either. And unless Bryan Harsin and this team goes on a ridiculous 9 or 10 win season, Bryan Harsin is totally going to be gone, and I'd expect him to be fired midway through the year. Alan Green, the athletic director that hired Bryan Harsin against the boosters, he has no power in this situation because the people with money have power, and he will likely be fired as well, so that Auburn will get an athletic director that will bring the boosters and will bring the football program together. This was a very aggressive move from Alan Green, and the only way that they were going to win is if Bryan Harsin had a ridiculous recruiting operation, and also if he got tremendous results on the field. But guess what? The boosters are responsible for recruiting. The boosters and the NIL deals and the boosters, they're responsible for, your athletic facilities, for everything in your program. They're responsible for the money part of your program, which is your facilities, your recruiting, all the planes, all of that. So this is one of the strangest periods that I can ever remember in college football, where the boosters are so adamant against Bryan Harsin that they are making his life a living hell, and they are making Alan Green, the athletic director's life, a living hell too. There is no continuity. I do feel bad for Bryan Harsin. I feel awful for him. He took this job. He took a dream job in the SEC. The boosters don't like him. They might have made up stuff about him, and it's really they are bullying Bryan Harsin to quit. And I give Bryan Harsin credit for staying strong and committing to this job and finishing out this season. Where I could get on Bryan Harsin is that he should have had more research and more inclination that the boosters didn't like him, and maybe he wouldn't have taken this job. So, Bryan Harsin, he had a great situation at Boise. Then he went to Auburn, where he goes into a hornet's nest. Is that Bryan Harsin's fault that he even took this job in the first place? Maybe. Could Bryan Harsin not see this coming? Maybe. Is Bryan Harsin trying to make money? Yes. So for Bryan Harsin, for him to win the support of the fans and everybody, the team needs to go 10-2. And for Bryan Harsin, the point is when you're an outsider as well, the way he treated some of these players, what they're talking about, the way that he has blown off all of the engagements with the boosters, he hasn't done his end of the bargain in terms of maybe going to the Bo Jackson golf tournament or doing these certain things to make himself seem very attractive to the Auburn boosters. So in some way, you have to play the game, unfortunately. Playing the game meaning getting in line with the boosters. But it's a fascinating story. We've never really seen, somebody's character attacked like this pretty much in year two. And if their character was attacked, it's because they sucked on the field. And Bryan Harsin, it was his first year replacing Gus Malzahn. They almost beat Alabama. It wasn't like they went 3-9. The team went 6-6. They lost to Mississippi State, but the team also beat LSU. They also beat Ole Miss, who ended up going to the Sugar Bowl. They beat them at home, so it's not like he was absolutely awful. So a large part of you feels really bad for Bryan Harsin. The other part of you, questions if all of this is true. It makes Auburn look really bad because what coach is going to want to work there unless somehow they get really tight with the boosters? Alan Green's job is in total jeopardy, and the most likely outcome is that Bryan Harsin ends up just getting fired midway through the year next year because it's going to be a dumpster fire with recruiting. No recruits are going to want to go to Auburn. The fan support's not going to really be there. A lot of guys have transferred. It's not going to be a cohesive team. They're going to be very beatable next year. And at the first sign, if they start off 2-3, Bryan Harsin is going to be gone. So it's a ticking time bomb at Auburn. It's absolutely fascinating. We really have not seen this too much in recent college football, and maybe since like Willie Taggart at Oregon. But the stuff that was getting leaked and everything like that is wild stuff from Auburn and from their camp. And if Bryan Harsin didn't do any of that, I feel really bad for him in this instance that he has to put up with fake reports and people attacking him. So it's hostile. I don't know if the two sides will ever see eye to eye. It is important for the two sides. Boosters are critical to the program, and coaching is critical to the program and working in a good situation. So it's unbelievable, but for Auburn, the point is of this story is they're delaying the inevitable. They're not going to court. Bryan Harsin staying firm. And next year, Hugh Freeze is probably going to be in Auburn. Maybe Urban Meyer will be at Auburn.